Hello and welcome back to my channel. For this video I am using this little stamp set called Color My World from Fawn. To start with, I'm going to use various reds to color my first crayon. Now this is the only stamp set I use for this card, so this stamp set is a good price point. I think it's somewhere between $3 and $5, so I don't know. This one's really cute. I love this one. I really think I should use it more. I was inspired to make this card when I seen the new platform pop-up die. The little sleeve kind of reminded me of a crayon box. Anyway, to start with, I have colored my crayon wrapper with the lightest colors of red that I have. And then for the crayon itself, I am keeping the left and the right darker, and I'm making the shadow on the left side a little bit bigger than the shadow on the right. Coloring is pretty straightforward here. And for this one I used more colors, but you'll see this next one, when I do it, I actually have less colors. I have just the 3. So in order to get this to look different, the wrapper versus the crayon, I am coloring the whole thing in with my lightest color, and I'm going to take my mid-tone and I am going to make the shadows on the wrapper, and then I'm going to go in fairly heavy with my darker colors for my shading on my crayon. Now here I'm going to skip through. This is my yellow color combination. This is my yellow-green combination. This is my green combination. My blue-green. My blue. Blue-violet. Violet. And red-violet. I will say this kind of showed me what colors I gravitate towards for all of these color families. Alright, now I have some cool markers for my black, some warm grays for my gray marker. I have the lighter cool grays for my white marker, and then I have like a peachy skin tone with my lower E markers, and then I have a brown with some of my darker E markers. After that, I am going to cut these out, and then I can work on the platform pop-up that I'm going to use. So obviously I have the platform pop-up die. I have cut out 2 white panels, and then in one of the panels I have cut out an oval. This was actually from a random tag die set that I have. I'm going to ink these up with mustard seed distress oxide. And not only am I inking up the front side, I'm going to ink up the back. And that's just because you will see through this a little bit, because I have that hole in the front. This ink blending is nothing fancy. I'm just coloring the whole thing yellow. If I had had a good shade of yellow cardstock, I could have just cut it out from that. I do tend to pull out my oxides a lot though. For the little flap at the front, I am going to have to trim this down because you will see it through the little oval cutout that I have. Of course, I still didn't cut it out well enough, and you'll see that in a little bit. Now I have these T-shaped pieces, and I'm inking the front and the backs of these. Now I have this little partial one. I thought about putting it in the middle, but then I realized I didn't actually need it. So you'll see that in a little bit as well. Alright, now I have my crayons cut out, and I am going to glue them onto little scraps of paper in the order that I would like them in, and I'm grouping them in groups of 5. After I have them adhered, I am going to trim off the excess, and I repeated this process 2 more times for the rest of the little crayons. Now, because I have the little cutout in the front, I do want the bottom part to show of the first row. So I just cut the tops off, and I am gluing the very center crayon, which in this case is the yellow one, on the little T-shaped piece. And this took a little bit of me trying to figure out where exactly it should go to line it up just right. It did end up being a little bit crooked in the end, which is annoying, but there was nothing I could do about it at that point. Here I also realized that the little flap was a little bit too big. So that was annoying, but I have these really teeny tiny pair of scissors that I use to do what I can to trim away that excess flap, as you'll kind of sort of see here. I had to have it pretty close to my face to see what I was doing. All right, and then here I'm just going to try to line up as best as I can. the tops of the crayons, and now it looks like they are stuck into the box. Now for my center row, I don't actually have to cut anything, and I don't actually have to have that middle T piece. I'm just going to adhere them straight onto that middle of the two panels. I do want them to be a little bit higher than the first row, as this is generally what they look like when they're in a box. And then I am moving on to my last little row, and for this one, I think I ended up cutting it a little bit shorter than I really wanted it to, but it's really hard to gauge that. So here I'm just cutting it and I'm placing it down to try to see how it will look all together. And at this point I decided I should probably adhere both of the platform pop-up pieces together. And here, I probably should have left it at that, but here I go trimming more down. It looked okay to start with, but I mean, it's still fine. I just think it was a little bit short. Now, because my little opening is a little rough looking, I am taking my sand eraser and I'm going to kind of buff away some of that paper. It does help give it a little bit of a cleaner look. It's not perfect, but it does look a lot better than it did. Moving on to my sentiment, I'm taking this ink on 3 fade out ink and I'm going to stamp my sentiment with it. Of course, my stamp wasn't cleaned off, so you'll see here it's kind of green tinted from where I stamped it the first time to cut out the other words, but I just kind of scrubbed it off on my paper. What a waste. Tisk tisk. I stamped it again, and now I'm going to take a red, a yellow, a orange, a yellow green, and a blue marker shown here. And I am going to just trace over the word color with the various colors. I could have probably stamped this out with different inks and try to mask off all of the extra letters. I didn't really want to do that, so I didn't. This was my workaround. I used my scan and cut to cut these letters out, and it worked out pretty well. Here are the other pieces that were cut out with the scan and cut. I used Lucky Clover Distress Oxide to cut these out. Next, I found a yellow marker that was what I thought was sort of close to the yellow of my box, and I'm just coloring the white bits of the words that, I guess I should say the letters of the word color. I also decided the L was too light, so I brought in some Y17 to darken it up a little bit. I wanted you to actually be able to read it. And now I'm gluing down U color on one side, which this is just me working out where I want it. And now that that's attached, I am going to glue on the words My World on the other side. After that's adhered, my card is complete. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. I will be back with another video soon. Bye!